walk on a Christmas night, coat and hat 'cause it's 10 below.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. So many of the changes that we've seen over these last couple of years have been inevitable, but they got expedited by about 6 to 8 years because of a global pandemic. This whole concept of hybrid or remote work was inevitable, but got expedited by a global pandemic. The changes that we're now seeing to our retail market also were necessary and essential, but got expedited, and we're having to respond now faster than ever. And what I can tell you is the cities that succeed now going into the future are not the ones that are going to cling white-knuckled to what once was. The cities that are truly going to succeed are going to embrace change, are going to move with the times, and for purposes of today, and most importantly, are going to listen to the best data sets and the most experienced experts in taking the recommendations as to how we progress from here. It was about 6 years ago or so that I wrote an op-ed, I believe it was in the Star Tribune, where we talked about retail. What I said was the old model of massive square footage, multi-story department store-like retail was a dying model. But retail in and of itself was not dead at all and is not dead. In fact, it's alive and well, but it's changing. We need now to be willing and able to change with the times that we're seeing before us. People are no longer going physically into a space to purchase very basic goods like underwear and t-shirts. However, they are looking for an amazing experience. They want to shop, but they want to have an incredible time while doing so. They want to walk down the block and not just have one conglomerate, but perhaps 5 to 8 different concepts, all in the same store, all on the same block. And right now, we're in young Quinlan, and thank you so much, Bob Greenberg, for having us. And what you see is that the space has been transformed with incredible entrepreneurs, artists, makers, all in the same space, able to both exhibit their craft, to make a living, and simultaneously make our downtown a more vibrant place. That's the goal, and that's where we're moving right now. And so what we're setting up and what we're announcing today is the Vibrant Downtown Storefronts Workgroup. And this is a group of some really incredible people that are going to be offering recommendations, and we don't exactly know what those recommendations are going to be. But they're going to be mining data from around the country. They're going to look at best practices from around the country, and they're going to be responding to some of the most recent trends that we are seeing nationwide in our real estate market, accounting for the concept of hybrid and remote work, and acknowledging that commercial space, retail space, office space, all of them are going to be used in different ways. And we're going to be on the cutting edge in doing so. So, and what I want to say is if you look around our city and in other cities, we are seeing models of success. Now, no neighborhood is the same, no city is the same, but for instance, in North Loop right now, as an example, you see storefronts that are jam-packed. You see minimal vacancies, and you see people by the droves that are shopping both during the weekday and on the weekend. That's something that we can move towards, but in a different fashion, given the different dynamics that we now have and experience in our downtown core and along Nicollet Mall. So along with this work group, we've got many of the top experts in this field, in this group, and members are all here with us today. These are local business owners, these are community members, brokers. They all have extensive experience and knowledge on this topic. And so I want to give a big thank you to each and every member of this work group for being part of this coalition. This work group will be chaired by Steve Kramer and Gabrielle Greer. And Steve Kramer is really no stranger to downtown work. He's been president and the CEO of the Downtown Council for quite some time now, past 9 years, I believe. And Gabrielle Greer is a top leader in the arts community as the managing director of Juxtaposition Arts. And they're working on a number of incredible initiatives, both inside and outside Minneapolis as we speak. And so I've directed this work group to examine some of these market dynamics that I've already mentioned, to work on how we work through this storefront space and to make our city as vibrant and as welcoming as possible. They're going to begin meeting in January, and we anticipate that final recommendations are going to come in the early spring. And so I very much look forward to their work ahead. It's so important at this critical moment in the city, and I appreciate all of you being here with us. And I tell myself this every morning, and it is in fact the truth. It's an opportunity. Every day is an opportunity to do things differently and better. It's an opportunity not just to get back to the old normal, but to blow by that normal and to get to true transformation in our city. And I'll say it's about time. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to our council members who have been working extensively for years on the vibrancy of downtown and the storefront space. Before I do so, I do want to acknowledge Councilmember Emily Koski from the 11th Ward, who's not a downtown council member but cares enough to be here. Thank you for your presence. And behind me, we've got Councilmember Lisa Goodman, who has been working tirelessly on this issue now for decades, and we so appreciate her support as part of this work group. But right now, I'd like to turn it over to the council member of the 3rd Ward, Councilmember Michael Rainville.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I want to echo the mayor's thanks, and especially to Andrea Brennan from CPED and her staff who will be so involved with this, and of course to the business leaders, Steve Kramer, Melvin Tennant is behind me, Sarah Anderson. The private sector is really the key to understanding how we're going to go forward. And there is no denying, and we can never deny, that Minneapolis is the economic engine of Minnesota and really the upper Midwest. So we have to protect that engine, and we have to fine-tune it right now. Because the mayor is right. This change that is before us is the opportunity to make that economic engine run again. And I want to end with this thought. The tax base of downtown is so important. And if that tax base isn't protected, if it doesn't grow, then the renters of Minneapolis, the homeowners of Minneapolis are going to have to pay more in taxes. So let's get this tax base up and running again. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Thank you, council member. And next I'd like to welcome up one of our co-chairs and the CEO of the Downtown Council, Steve Kramer.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, I want to thank you, Mayor, for convening this group and the council members for their consistent support. Lisa, there you are. I do think this is a great roster. We may be adding a couple of more working with your office and CPED, but we've got a great core group here that will help this process along. And it's, as you said, Mayor, it's a perfect time to pull this working group together. I don't think, just to echo your comments, I don't think any of us are interested in kind of wringing our hands about what we no longer have, but also not interested in ignoring the current situation and just hoping for the best. So the idea is to kind of focus on what city policy can do to help move us forward, what building owners can themselves do to help kind of move us forward, what kind of vision do we have for the future in terms of our storefront economy at the street level, but also the skyway level that reflects our best aspirations. And speaking of best aspirations, I think this space embodies what is possible. And I also want to thank Bob Greenberg and Sue for the incredible investment they made as an owner to kind of create this space. People may remember the old J.B. Hudson jewelry store, which was a wonderful business in downtown Minneapolis for many, many years. But it also was inward looking, and it was insular. It had to be by the nature of their business. And this space is anything but that. I mean, it opens to the street, it creates energy, it brings in, as the mayor said, kind of a set of really compelling, community-based kind of entrepreneurs that now have access to the downtown marketplace and are creating excitement in our downtown. So this is the kind of aspiration that we can continue to build on. Let me conclude by maybe anticipating just a couple of questions. We don't have a vacancy number for you, but we are right now engaged in a very thorough, comprehensive inventory of all of the space at the storefront and the skyway level, working with CPED, so that we will know kind of what is available, who the owners are, what some of the expectations of those owners are. That can be an important input into the work of the working group. I can also tell you that while there have been some notable closures, there are 409 businesses open, as displayed on our website, open in downtown. Restaurants, retailers, entertainment venues, and that number has increased dramatically in recent years. So there's plenty of stuff going on and plenty of business people that are doing their best to kind of bring services and goods and excitement to downtown. And finally, and maybe most importantly, no, skyways are not going anywhere. So with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back to you. And
Thank you, Steve. And as I mentioned, we've got a number of really talented individuals, from brokers to council members to former mayors in RT, and a lot of people that care deeply about the city and about downtown. Among them is our other co-chair, Gabrielle Greer, who has done some extensive work at Juxtaposition Arts and has been really at the forefront of creative thought and design in the city.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Greer, and as I mentioned, I am the Managing Director at Juxtaposition Arts. I identify as an artist and a community engagement leader. I'm grateful to be a part of this vibrant workforce group and to really think about the opportunity to be able to serve as co-chair. First, I want to be able to thank Mayor Frey's office and everyone involved, including the Minneapolis Community Planning and Economic Development Team, the Minneapolis Downtown Council, along with Steve Kramer, and the Downtown Improvement Council and District for the support. I'm really happy to be able to think about the reinvigoration and reinventing what is possible for downtown. I think the big part of Juxta is that our work stretches beyond just youth workforce development planning. We do a lot of authentic community engagement and really think about what it means to design and invest with people. Our experience is partnering with a variety of different stakeholders that includes people thinking about different types of expansion and really what is possible in terms of partnering for change with the community. We use basic design methods, tools to amplify really the neighborhood voice, build community knowledge, and really interrupt patterns of disinvestment within our city. We have partnered with several organizers, engaged a variety of different members around things like urban planning and development projects throughout the Twin Cities, research projects that focus on experiences of Black business owners across the city, and really thinking about accessibility in housing and eviction resources in the Twin Cities. Most recently, our work has been around organizing different community leaders for the Dante Wright Memorial with the City of Brooklyn Center. We've partnered with the Emerson Village Affordable Housing Project that's in West Broadway, and really have partnered with the City, Met Council, and other community leaders for the Blue Line extension. I think the biggest thing is that we look forward to thinking about different various forms of collaboration, really to think about how important it is to keep culture and people at the center of what we do. That's a big part of how our communities stay vibrant, and I'm really excited about being able to partner with Steve and the rest of the workforce to do that. As Mayor Frey mentioned, we kick off in mid-January, and the goal is to be able to wrap up and have final recommendations to everyone in April. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will open it to any questions you might have.
Mayor Garth, Northwood, is there some secret recipe over there that isn't translated to downtown?
Well, first I want to just point out the obvious differences. North Loop was used by way of an example, but is not necessarily the one and only strategy for how we would utilize retail space somewhere else. But I will tell you one reason why North Loop has been successful. It's a diversity of use. I was the council member of North Loop in the 3rd Ward going back 6-8 years ago. And one of the things that we really pushed for was to have all of it in one neighborhood. Commercial, residential, retail, entertainment, even light industrial, all in a single neighborhood. And with that, you have this beautiful inflow and outflow of people through a space at any given time. You have somebody working the night shift that's coming back to their home. You've got someone who's going out for dinner. You've got someone who's getting up early and heading into the office. It's this beautiful inflow and outflow of people through the space, and that's something that I think can be replicated not just in North Loop, but throughout the city. And as our downtown transitions, As some commercial or office space is shifted to residential from commercial, that is something that obviously we need to be looking at as well. Now that goes beyond the concepts that this particular work group will be looking at, which is predominantly around the vibrancy of storefront retail. But obviously the presence and inflow and outflow of people through the space has an impact on the customer base, which in turn has an impact on the success or failure of any individual entity. So I think a lot of those lessons from North Loop are broadly applicable, but we fully recognize that it is a different neighborhood. Yes, Nicole.
Is there any appetite for maybe a city-owned space that maybe could be like a more permanent site for chameleon shops or other kind of pop-ups?
So the question is there any appetite for a city-owned space? I'm not going to be prescriptive on any of this. And so the work group is going to take the recommendations that is not influenced by politics or individuals. They're going to bring those recommendations to me and City Hall. And then we're going to try to implement them. I mean, that's the direction that we're going to go. So it's not off the table. It's not on it either. Yes.
Mayor, you mentioned earlier this week about the need to cater to downtown workers, perhaps bringing daycares to the street level, things along that nature that might require some changes to the city code or something that would need to, be done to allow that at the street level. Is that anything you see as a potential barrier, or will that be easy to fix, or what do you think about that?
So I find that every time I give an example of what could be, I put my foot in my mouth, because that's not necessarily what will be. That is an idea that I think we should definitely look at. And a dynamic that you are seeing nationwide right now is when people come into work, they want to have a convenience in doing so. And so the whole idea is people have children. Those children need to have supervision even when someone is physically in a workspace. Speaking as a parent who has a kid in a downtown daycare, it's really convenient. And I want to make sure that that convenience is broadly accessible to everyone. And so is that something that we would look at, daycare for children? Yes. We'd also look at daycare for people that have dogs, like Councilmember Lisa Goodman, who brings her dog into the council chambers. So that is not one prescriptive recipe, but of course that's an option, because we want to make it really easy and exciting and fun to come downtown. That's right. I will say that. Yes?
Can you highlight a few spaces that the work group plans to focus on?
No. The question was, can I highlight a few spaces that the work group will be focusing on? I don't know what spaces they will be focusing on. I think undoubtedly Nicollet Mall will be a primary focus, maybe not the only focus, but will be a primary focus. And so, if you look at the core of downtown and you look at the centralized areas of Nicollet Mall, where a significant amounts of retail, at least in terms of square footage, already exists, that's it. I'm open to anything. What I am not interested in doing is going back to an old model that is on its way out. I think the times of a massive square footage, Sports Authority and Barnes & Noble and Marshalls, and then that's it, and there aren't other options, is probably on its way out. I'm open to being wrong. But what we're looking at here is boldly taking the next step as a city. Yes?
Do you anticipate allocating any city money or asking the legislature for money for this endeavor, sort of like St. Paul has the free rent thing with the Downtown St. Paul Alliance? Do you think that money could play a part of this at all?
So we already do have some forms of assistance and subsidy that run through the Downtown Council in smaller form as we get some of these pop-up locations set up to begin with. Now it's a relatively smaller amount of money than would be helpful in a broad scale. I'm interested in, it's the same answer, which is I'm very interested in what the work group has to say. I'm not putting anything on the table, but I'm not taking it off either. It's, that certainly is a possibility. And as Councilmember Rainville mentioned, the importance of our downtown core to the rest of the state is not up for debate. There have been quite a few studies that have come out showing that Minneapolis is contributing a lion's share proportionally of funding statewide that other areas of the state benefit from. We want to help other areas of the state. In fact, we're proud to help other areas of the state. And simultaneously, we need to keep that engine churning. And before I take the next question, as Councilmember Goodman mentioned to me in my ear, a big question is also, what do residents want in downtown? We have a ton of residents that people going back and before R.T. Rybeck pushed to get in downtown. We have them now. We want to keep them, and we want to keep people and more residents coming downtown, which, by the way, is continuing to happen. People want to live in a thriving and vibrant area, and people continue to move to residential areas. So that's one of the things we're looking at as well.
Just to clarify,
Yes.
as a follow-up, so as of right now, there's not like funding allocated for some kind of initiative. It's going to be based off of whatever the recommendations are in the spring, and then the committee
Correct.
votes to that. Okay.
Yes, correct. Not taking it off the table. There could be an ask that goes onto our IGR agenda. There may be an ask that ultimately goes onto my budget. But we aren't there now. Anything else? All right. Thank you, everybody.